What's up, kings and queens? It's your boy Dan from Daft Previews. We've got 6 games on. It's the Emirates Cup, and I cannot wait for this one. Now, for this particular video, I don't have any picks that I've already put down. I've spent the last couple of hours in the hospital, just got home, doing my research right now. So I'm going to record the process with you, and hopefully we can find a few bangers. But before we do, we've got to recap some of the picks that I shared in the last video. The actual picks that I shared on the video wasn't great. Let's talk about it. First one, Cade Cunningham, over 16.5 rebounds and assists. I liked his assist prop, took the rebounds with it because I expected him to have a big rebound game. Didn't happen. 10 assists, 6 boards. He finished on 16. We got hooked here. Plus money play. We got close, but not close enough. Then we had these two. Jordan Poole, that was a bad bet. The matchup was great, but he didn't even get close to that. Karl Anthony Towns dominated the Wizards. Only played 24 minutes, though. Blowout win. Should have factored that in. I still expected him to play close to 30 minutes, but he didn't get close to that. He was great in the time that he was there, but that did not cash. It was a nice look, but the blowout, I should have really factored that in a little bit more. And then the last two, Franz Wagner in the first quarter, quiet as hell, didn't do nothing. But Vucevic, an absolute wagon, he cashed that. So from the initial picks that I shared with you, not great. I'm going to own that. Those picks weren't good enough. But did share some more NBA picks. So these ones right here, set them out to all the free subscribers on Winnable. 3-0. Dyson Daniels in the first quarter, easy. Zubac rebounds, easy. Fred rebounds and assists, easy money. Had a whole lot of value plays, but let me just refresh this and we can get the summary up. So this is how we landed overall. 1.3 units up. Dyson Daniels, 3 points in the first quarter, 5 points in the first quarter. Zubac rebounds, Van Vliet. We also see the same game parlay with Van Vliet, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, plus 350. Vucevic, we got him for over 5 points. Zach LaVine, we hit him at 25 points. And we also hit an NFL same game parlay. It was the only NFL play, and it still cashed. Overall, a little bit underwhelming from my perspective. I got very close to hitting some absolute bangers, but close doesn't pay the bills. And also, reminder, 50% off if you use the code WEBACK, and you'll get all my personal plays. The link for that's in the video description below. Now, let's start hunting because I haven't pre-prepared anything. I'm going to use Props Madness. If you did not know, best tool for using NBA player props. I promise you that. All your favorite cappers are using Props Madness, and you can see it in how they're explaining their bets. And I think you should too. So check it out. 7-day free trial in the video description below, and you get 25% off if you use the code DAFT when you sign up. All right, so the first game we're looking at is the Cavs versus the Celtics. Okora is a game time decision, as well as Karis LeVert. And for Boston, Peyton Pritchard is a game time decision as well. Somewhat impactful. It is a cup game, so we're expecting the starters to play a lot more minutes than they have been. For and against is an important thing to factor in here, which is why I'm really excited to bet on it. Now, we're going to go through Props Madness, see if we can find some bangers. The good thing is for me, I tend to look at these stats, these players every single day, so I've got a pretty good idea of what hit rates are good. So that hopefully speeds up the process. Now let's do it. Now, the first thing that comes to mind is Jaylen Brown looking at his PRA. Check that out. His PRA is set at 34.5. The man's cashed this in 8 out of 10 games this season. Now, yes, they've had a really easy draw. If you look at the teams, Washington, Detroit, Milwaukee, Indiana, Charlotte, Milwaukee, Atlanta, Brooklyn, Toronto, all pretty easy matchups. So the matchup he has today against Cleveland, toughest matchup he's had all season. But in saying that, the hit rate on this has been marvelous. Looking at his minutes, he's playing in the high 30s. Some games he's playing about 40 minutes here. So hopefully he gets close to the 40-minute mark in this game. It's a very important one. In terms of matchups, though, Jaylen Brown scoring in transition, scoring in the restricted area. Cleveland, pretty good defensively when it comes to those different play types. If we look at how he's performed against them in the past, looking at last season, under this PRA in all three games, 31, 32, and 28. All of those regular season games. The volume is nice, taking almost 20 shots per game. The problem is not getting too many rebounds or assists last season. So maybe a little bit tough here for Jaylen Brown. I know that the hit rate's good, but I typically look for matchups as well as a good hit rate. So I'm going to have to pass on Jaylen Brown. The problem we'll find in this particular game is both teams are very good. So the matchups is probably not going to be ideal. Now, this game's been played at Boston, and I know at home, Al Horford is an absolute beast. Now, his points line is 8.5. He's covered that in 8 out of 12 games this season, which is absolutely wild. And if you look at his games at home, 5 out of the 6 games at home he's gone over. The game he went under, he's finished on 8 points against Atlanta. In that game, 26 minutes for him. Only took 5 shots. Now, checking to see, it is 8.5 everywhere, but let's check out the matchup here. Up against Cleveland, Al Horford, spot-up shooter, hitting above the break threes. Now, if there is a weakness here for Cleveland, it is definitely that. Defending spot-up shooters, defending above the break. They've got a lot of bigs and Jared Allen, a lot of drop coverage there. So if they do the pick and pop game with Al Horford, I think he's going to get some open looks in this one. So, this is one that I can probably entertain. The matchup's nice. The hit rate's nice. I wonder how he performed against Cleveland last season. Let's take a look. And he went under in all 3 games. How good? 22, 24, 20 minutes. But the one call out here, Kristaps Porzingis played in every single game. So no Kristaps Porzingis. It kind of changes things a little bit. If we look at his last 20 games last season in the regular season, 10.2 points per game, 10 out of 20 as a hit rate. If we were to look at his games with and without Porzingis, let's go games with Porzingis, 8.2, 7 out of his last 20. This is last season starter. If you look at without Porzingis, 11.9, 13 out of 17 games. So no Porzingis once again for this one. So I do like this one for Al Horford. Uplifted minutes, opportunities, going to stretch the floor, give these Celtics more room to operate. I think Al Horford could be a play here. So I'm going to put that down as a lean. I don't think I'm going to submit any bets because I do need to double check these off camera just to make sure I'm thinking clearly. But Al Horford points prop has my attention. Now, Jaylen Brown assists. He's been cashing these quite well. 7 out of his last 10 games, he's covered 3.5 assists. The odds for this, best odds at minus 115, which works for me. Cleveland, 11th in the league in terms of assists allowed. Similar types of players have been getting some assists against them. Jaylen Brown, potential assist numbers, very inconsistent. So his actually potential assist volumes are not very high at all. But he might see more opportunities here. I'd probably lean to the over there for Jaylen Brown. The hit rate is nice, but he's not typically someone you'd normally bet on, especially for an assist prop. So I'll probably have to pass on that despite the hit rate being so good. The next one is for Donovan Mitchell. Looking at his assists here and potentially looking at an under. So he's only hit the over in 5 out of 14 games this season. The matchup against Boston, not the easiest one, 12th in assists allowed. So Boston giving up some more assists this season than they were last season. But I don't really want to bet on an under for Donovan Mitchell. He's probably going to see a lot of game time, a lot of usage rate. Some of these assists could just happen through the flow of the game. So I'm not overly keen for that. Someone I'm always looking to fade is someone like Jason Tatum, though, being a proud Jason Tatum hater. Now, this matchup for Jason Tatum actually is a pretty good one. Cleveland do allow a lot of points of the isolation game, which is where Tatum scores a lot of his points. Cleveland happy to let teams play one-on-one against them, preventing wide open threes and stuff like that. So Jason Tatum in the isolation of Cleveland, let him just play them one-on-one. He can probably get over his points prop. Now, even though I'm a hater, I am realistic and logical when I make my decisions. Well, most of them, I'd say. But Jason Tatum, assist game, that's been on point as of late. But again, very soft matchups. His rebounds, 8.5 boards, has only hit this in 6 out of 14 games this season. This Cleveland Cavs team, second fewest rebounds allowed on the season. So if I was going to bet on Jason Tatum, I'd probably be betting over in his points. But set 27.5. I don't know. Do I like him enough? I probably don't, but I do lean to the over there for Jason Tatum. I think they let him play one-on-one. I wonder how he performed against them last season in the regular season. 25, 27, 26. But you got to keep in mind, Porzingis played in all of these games. And I guess if we run the same numbers here for Jason Tatum with and without Kristaps Porzingis. With Kristaps, he averaged 25.5 in his last 20 games. And without him, in his last 20 games without Kristaps Porzingis, 29.1, a 55% hit rate, 11 out of 20 games. So, yeah, look, I probably lean to the over, but I'm not overly excited by this. But if we're talking about Jason Tatum, something's got a pretty good hit rate, especially when he's at home, is his steals and blocks. So, actually, I'm on the wrong season. Here we go. So this season, he's covered his steals plus blocks line in 9 out of 14 games. Under in his last 2, but 9 out of 14. And if we look at his games at home specifically, 5 out of 6 games. He's gone over this. The odds for it are pretty good. Best odds at minus 110 for Jason Tatum to go over his steals plus blocks. This is an important game after all. So, does that mean more steals, more blocks for Jason Tatum? It's not something that he's typically known for, but this has been pretty consistent. It's been a wagon of a bet. So if you like betting on hit rates and Jason Tatum to go over his steals and blocks, it could be a good look. Wonder how he went steals and blocks against them last season. Well, look, he went over it in 2 out of 3 games, which is very interesting. A lot of blocks, 2 blocks, 3 blocks, didn't get any steals. So the blocks could be something, I'd say. But the hit rate is good. But again, that's a really tough bet. I'm not desperate to find some, so I'm not sure if I can get there. And lastly, what do we have? Evan Mobley in the first quarter. Now, one thing I know about this, the trend here is Evan Mobley on the road doesn't necessarily score very well in the first quarter. You can see it here. 1 out of 7 games on the road this season has he gone over 3.5 points in the first quarter, which is crazy. Taking the under here for Evan Mobley is plus money. Plus 120 are the best odds that you can find. And you got to be pretty ballsy because 3.5 is a key number. He really just needs to make 2 baskets. The problem with Evan Mobley here on the road, the volume's not very high. 2 to 3 shots is all he's seeing on the road. 2 to 3. And if we compare that to when he's at home, look at his home numbers. Man, 6.6 points per game in the first quarter. Games played at home, covering in 7 out of 7 games. This is something I need to remember the next time Cleveland play at home. But yeah, on the road, completely different story. That's a really interesting insight. So 6.6 at home, 2.6 on the road. So the volume is the real big difference here. He's taking about 4 to 5 shots per game in the first quarter when he's at home, and on the road that drops down to 2. So that is a very interesting look, and for plus money as well. So I might lean into that. I'll take a look. It might be worth half a unit, right? Under 3.5 first quarter points. But that's very interesting. I don't mind that. It's a very interesting hit rate right there. It doesn't make much sense to me, but facts. In terms of other key players, I think casually, not looking at the numbers here, Jared Allen should have a big game. Boston, it's a tough matchup for him, pick and roll men and in the restricted area, but Jakob Poeltl, for example, absolutely killed them. 35 points he scored against them. Clint Capella had 18, which is a pretty big game. Similar types of players. Jared Allen lines at 14.5. How he played against Cleveland last season, let's take a look. 14, 8, and 21 in 3 regular season games. So that number's not overly too impressive. Quick look at his rebounds, 5, 10, and 12 last season. In this game, his line's at 10.5 for boards, 14.5 for points. Again, probably goes over, being honest with you, but the matchup, based on all the data that we have available, is a difficult one against Boston. Now, I know one popular play, and this is always a popular play depending on where the line is at. It's Evan Mobley points plus assists. If you can catch it at 17.5, the odds aren't going to be great, but the hit rate on this is amazing. 10 out of 14 games, he's managed to make this happen. On the road, 4 out of 7. So his home and away splits, even though he is much better at home, on the road, it's still not too bad at all. But I'm not completely in love with it. I honestly do like the Al Horford play. That's pretty strange for me to say. Al Horford and maybe even Evan Mobley under his first quarter points drop. That's got my attention here. But let's jump into the next game. We've got the Charlotte Hornets versus the Brooklyn Nets. And having a look at the lineups here, Dorian Finney-Smith is a game-time decision. Ben Simmons starting at center. And for Charlotte, Trey Mann is a game-time decision. They still don't have any true centers in the lineup. So it's going to be very interesting. Nick Claxton is out. So interested to see who's going to get these rebounds for Brooklyn. It's going to be an interesting game. So let's take a look, shall we? Firstly, let's look at some key players. Cam Thomas, 24.5 is his line. I thought he'd be a very consistent scorer this season. He's averaging 24.6, but he's had quite a few games scoring less than 20 points. His matchup against Charlotte. Now, Charlotte, bottom 10 defensive rating, but they're somewhat decent at defending the pick and roll and defending above the break, believe it or not, which is where Cam Thomas lives. They are, however, not strong in the other ways that he scores, so I'm sure he'll still be able to find some buckets here, Cam Thomas. But I'm not absolutely loving the matchup. I'm not loving his recent form, so I'll probably have to pass on Cam Thomas. But someone that always gets my attention is Ben Simmons. His lines are usually super low. Now, looking at the matchup, Ben Simmons, if he does score a point, it's in transition and he's scoring in the paint. And this Charlotte team, one of the worst in defending the restricted area right into the basket. So Ben Simmons could find himself under there, make a couple of layups. You can see here, similar types of players in his position. They're over this line in 6 out of 9 games. So if Ben Simmons takes some more shots, he can make it happen. He was 0 for 3 against the Knicks. The volume's not there. Line's at 6.5. I don't think I can get there. But Ben Simmons assists. If you're going to bet on Ben Simmons, it needs to be the assists. He's averaging 7 assists a game this season. 5 out of 10 games he's hit the over. Charlotte, bottom 10 in the league in terms of assists allowed. And if we look at similar types of players against them, they all cover their assists line, which is pretty crazy. So it's a very interesting look there. Now, one thing that I like betting on Ben Simmons is not his total assists. Ben Simmons is someone who tends to cook early in the game. So first quarter points is not too bad. His first quarter assists might be a good look. Something that Props Madness needs to add here. But I'll take a look at that after the video. LaMelo Ball, 26.5 up against Brooklyn. Tough matchup. Brooklyn, very good at defending the pick and roll and limiting points above the break. Take a look at that. They're top 5, believe it or not. So the matchup is a difficult one. 26.5 in a cup game, though. We should see high Melo usage, high shot volume. So despite the matchup being difficult, I don't think that stops LaMelo Ball from shooting. So that's my only hesitation on wanting to take any unders. His assist line at 7.5. Pretty good matchup. Brooklyn does give up a lot of assists. Their defensive rating is not good. However, LaMelo Ball, not necessarily diming up as much this season. Potential assist volumes are down. So I may pass on that, to be honest. I'll pass on anything LaMelo Ball. If I do find anything of value, I'll be sure to share that with all my subscribers on Winnable. Now, someone who could be an interesting look here is Brandon Miller. Now, his matchup is difficult, but if you look at how he's performed against teams with a poor defensive rating, you can see it right here. These are the actually, that's too filtered it too much. The teams with a poor defensive rating, he can make it happen. But I'm not desperately looking to push a Brandon Miller player, but it is interesting. Someone who has been killing it, though, is Josh Green. 2 games in a row, he scored 15 points, playing 29 minutes in both games. His volume, 8 shots per game, which is pretty decent when your line's 6.5, and you happen to shoot a lot of 3-pointers. So Josh Green, it was his birthday against the Bucks, scored 15, backed it up with 15 against Cleveland again. Trey Mann was missing in one of those games, but Green's always getting over 20 minutes per game. The question is, will he get the volume? That's my only concern here. And against Brooklyn, who are not the best at defending spot-up shooters, they probably leave Josh Green wide open for some shots here. His 3-pointers made line, 0.5, juice to the max. So if you'd probably get 2 3-pointers at plus money for him, which has been cashing as of late. But I think the points probably provide you with a bit more value. And what you really need here, just looking at the box score, you need him to take at least 6 shots. So if we think Josh Green's going to take 6 shots in this game, then he probably cashes. So if we look at the games where he takes a minimum of 6 shots, he's over this line in every single one, averaging 11.8. If we go down to 5, gets a little bit worse. 4, even worse. So you need, 6 is the magic number. 5 you can probably deal with, provided he shoots a good percentage. Yeah, the question mark is, does Josh Green take 6 shots? That is the only question. But 6.5 seems like a notoriously low line. Not something I'm in love with. Very interesting nonetheless. I was thinking about it. Ben Simmons' points and rebounds. He hasn't been doing this quite well. He's only hit this in 2 out of 10 games this season, though. But he's going to be playing, he'll play a different role with Nick Claxton out of the lineup. He's only played 3 games without Nick Claxton in the lineup, but still, he's gone under this in all 3 games. 13, 11, and 4, and up against Charlotte. The matchup's not too bad. So, yeah, the hit rate's good, but I'm not overly excited by betting on Ben Simmons in this one by the looks of things. He's another one with a pretty good hit rate as of late. Schroeder, 7 out of his last 8 games. He's gone under his rebounds plus assist line. So that's an interesting look. If we look at those 8 games, 7.5 is an average. Line's at 9.5. Charlotte does give up assists. However, they don't give up too many rebounds. And we also have Ben Simmons active in the lineup. So I wonder if it's just a Ben Simmons thing. Let's look at the games with Ben Simmons. And 5 out of 10. So it's not necessarily a Ben Simmons thing. It's just as of late, hasn't been getting it done. but I'm not overly keen on taking an under against the Brooklyn Nets in this one. Now, we've got someone like Cam Johnson, who's been playing out of his mind as of late, been scoring the ball quite well. Scores through spot-up shooting and above the break threes. Charlotte, pretty good at limiting spot-up shooters and shooting from above the break threes. So it could be somewhat difficult. He also scores in transition, and Charlotte top 10 in defending transition buckets as well. So, yeah, not loving the matchups here for a lot of the key players for the Brooklyn Nets, because where Charlotte is weak is right around the basket, I believe. Yep, absolutely. And we don't have too many players attacking the rack that way for Brooklyn. They kind of depend on that outside shot quite a lot. Ben Simmons is the only guy who really only shoots from within the paint, but he doesn't shoot the ball very much at all. So, yeah, that's a concern. And even for Charlotte, LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller all have tough matchups based on how this Brooklyn team plays defense. Someone who doesn't have a tough matchup is Miles Bridges, scoring as a spot-up shooter, scoring in the restricted area. And this Brooklyn team, very similar to Charlotte, giving up points right into the basket. So I wonder for Miles Bridges, when he has an appropriate matchup, can he go off here? 16.5. Don't mind that. His volume can be a little bit inconsistent, but he does rely heavily on that outside shot these days. So let's break it down. Firstly, against spot-up shooting. Now, Brooklyn are in the bottom half of the league. So if we just exclude the top 10 teams, when he's up against teams that allow spot-up shooting, Miles Bridges is over in 4 out of 6. So that's interesting. Now we're looking at games against teams who aren't good at defending under the basket. And we know that Brooklyn, one of the worst teams. But if we look at the worst teams that give up points under the basket, Bridges is under in every single one of them. So that's a really interesting one. It's quite tricky, to be honest. Scoring a lot of his points as a spot-up shooter, but obviously transition buckets as well. But yeah, out of everyone for Charlotte, I'd say Miles Bridges probably has the best matchup here. But let's have a look against Brooklyn last season. 2 games against Brooklyn last season, 23 and 24 points. The problem is both of those games missing LaMelo Ball, one of them missing Brandon Miller, and the other missing Trey Mann. So the form was pretty good last season, but the players that were missing kind of explains it all. So I hate to say it, I don't think I can find some value in this game. I'd have to look a little bit deeper later on. But let's jump into the next one. It's the Denver Nuggets versus the Memphis Grizzlies. Having a quick look at lineups, Nikola Jokic, still a game time decision. I believe, is expecting a baby perhaps, but he may not play. Aaron Gordon's still out. For Memphis, Marcus Smart's a game time decision, but Zach Edey's out. So that's going to be interesting. Desmond Bane is back, though. So this will be interesting because Denver not playing pretty good defense at all this season. And Memphis, they're playing with pace. They're pretty inconsistent without Jar out there. But let's take a look. We've got Jaren Jackson Jr. His matchup is a pretty decent one here against Denver. Scoring in transition, scoring in the paint. Denver, not great at any of those things. Did just play Denver not too long ago. Scored 20 points, 16 shot attempts. Missing Ja Morant. So got close, but not close enough. Looking at his other stats, nothing crazy going on there. So given they just played 2 days ago, we might be able to see what was the outcome there. Memphis won that game by 15 points. So Jaren Jackson still played 31. Did Desmond Bane play in that game? He did. Desmond Bane only scored 11 points. He was 5 from 12, 1 from 7 from deep. That was his second game back from injury. So Desmond Bane had 7 assists in that game, and he had 11 rebounds. What an absolute boost. Has been rebounding well so far this season, though. So the assist volume, you get 7 assists from 12 potential assists. And I don't know if that's an outlier or not, but the sample size of data is probably not big enough for me to make a call. But look, rebounds and assists could be a look. But again, not enough data there. Not enough data at all. Scottie Pippen Jr. Now, this guy, his hit rate on the season is crazy. The challenge is Desmond Bane just came back. Does that take some minutes and opportunities away? He only played 26 minutes in that last game against Denver. He shot the ball poorly, so that might explain it. So for Scottie Pippen Jr., if I was going to bet on him, I'd probably look at his PRA, 19.5. He's hit this in 10 out of 14 games this season. Bane Train's been back for 2 games, though. And in both of those games, Scottie Pippen Jr. went under. So that's probably my hesitation on betting on Scottie Pippen Jr. We've got Brandon Clark. He's only been back for a couple of games, I believe. So I know he's been there for quite a while, just not playing many minutes. So he gets a start now, seeing more minutes. But yeah, I'm not loving what I'm seeing there. So I probably need to wait till Nikola Jokic is confirmed. Then we can probably take a better look at the Denver Nuggets. But based on what I'm seeing here, there's not too much value on the board. Even a lot of the Grizzlies players, there's not there. I want to see Jalen Wells. I want to see what the hell's going on there. But next, we're the Dallas Mavericks versus the New Orleans Pelicans. Luka Doncic is a game time decision in this one. And the Pels still pretty much missing everybody. So they do have Brandon Ingram and Trey Murphy and a whole bunch of scrubs. But let's talk about this game. So there's no markets available for anyone on Dallas outside of Luka, which is fun. The spread in this game, Dallas minus 11.5, which is pretty big. And Luka may not even play. So let's talk about Brandon Ingram. Brandon Ingram's point signs at 25.5. His matchup against Dallas is not the worst one. So he'll be able to get some open looks here, I think. But 25.5 is a pretty high line if you ask me. How did he play against Dallas last year? 20 points, 20 and 12 in those games. CJ McCollum was missing in one of them. He scored 20, but now we're seeing no CJ, no DeJounte Murray, no Zion Williamson. Brandon Ingram's going to have a high usage rate, I can tell you that. But let's take a look at his other props, because I think his rebounding and assists have been in pretty good look. His assist line at 6.5, he's been pretty close to that, I must say, and rebounds 5.5. His output is consistently close to that, but there's nothing here that triggers me to say take the over. So I'll probably pass on anything Brandon Ingram related. Trey Murphy, he's been back for a couple of games now. 3 games back from his injury. His line's at 16.5, 12, 14, and 17. Spot up shooter here, Dallas. Pretty decent matchup, I would say. Spot up shooting. But the teams that he's already played, they're worse than Dallas at defending spot up shooters. So in good matchups, Trey Murphy still hasn't delivered. Taking a look at his rebounds now. So this could be an interesting look. So last year, Trey Murphy rebounds was an absolute wagon, especially in the playoffs. This season, he's over in 2 out of 3 games. Dallas, bottom 10 in terms of rebounds allowed. So it's a pretty decent matchup. He had 8 boards against the Denver Nuggets on only 10 rebound chances. And he's up against Dallas, who do give them up. Now, he did have only 2 rebounds against OKC, but that was a beatdown. He only had 3 rebound chances in that game. Based on the minutes he's going to get, I can't help but lean to the over here for Trey Murphy and his boards. Very small sample size of data, though. If we look at last season against Dallas, 1 game, 3 rebounds. Not very exciting. And that's pretty much all we got. So Trey Murphy, I lean to the over for his boards. Probably not going to bet it, though. But we've got Brandon Boston Jr., who's been seeing a lot of minutes now, playing in the starting lineup. Bit inconsistent as of late, covering his 13.5. It looks like the volume is going to be pretty good, though. He'll take more than 10 shots, that's for sure. The problem with him, doesn't get to the free throw line very well, and you need him to hit a couple of threes. And similar to Trey Murphy, scores a lot of points from spot-up shooting. So I'm not typically loving that. But his assist could be a look, but it's at 4.5. If you can catch this at 3.5, I'd be all for it. 4.5 is plus money. So I think tomorrow, when they're closer to the game, the 3.5, you'll probably get that available in some books. I think it's a pretty good look. Dallas, bottom 10 in terms of assists allowed. And then we've got Missy. Missy's been playing a ton of minutes. If I was going to bet on him, I'd probably be looking at his rebounds. His rebound line's at 7.5. He's cashed this in 3 out of his last 4 games. In terms of rebounds allowed, Dallas present a pretty good matchup. So these days, he's playing over 25 minutes. So if we look at the bottom 15 teams in rebounds allowed, and we look at games where he's played at least 25 minutes, he's over in 3 out of 5, averaging 9 rebounds a game, though. So, yeah. Look, it's probably one that I lean to the over, but again, not absolutely loving it. So I hate to say it, but this game fucking stinks. No value. These game time decisions are killing me. Not a great matchup advantage either. So not going to pull the trigger on anything there. Then we've got OKC versus the Spurs. And in this particular game, Wemby, I think it looks like he's going to be out still. Just checking to see if there's an update. He has been downgraded to doubtful for Tuesday's game against the Thunder. So it looks like he's going to be missing that game, which I think opens up a good opportunity for Zach Collins. I did bet on him the last time the Spurs played, and it was easy money up against OKC, who are lacking some size in their front court. So let's see what we can find here. Oh, here's my guy, Zach Collins. So I'm just going to look at the games without Wemby. So he played one game without Wemby. He scored 20 points in that game. His line's at 12.5. Scores his points as a spot-up shooter, and he scores in the restricted area. And he's up against OKC, who second worst team in terms of defending spot-up shooters. So they're going to give him some wide-open looks. And what's crazy about Zach Collins, right? This game against Dallas, he was 6 from 13. He was 0 from 5 from downtown. And I'm pretty sure he airballed 2 3-pointers in that game. Up against OKC, who do allow it. I think they're going to give Zach Collins some open looks here. Now, OKC is also one of the worst teams in the league at rebounding at the moment, given their lack of size. So Zach Collins rebounds could be an interesting look. Now, he only had 6 rebounds from 16 rebound chances against the Dallas Mavericks. If you get 16 rebound chances, again, I'm sure he's going to collect. Dallas got lively, Gafford in there, knocking some shit around. Whereas OKC don't have anyone playing with that type of size right now. So I think Zach Collins, maybe his points and rebounds could be a good look. I'm just curious to see. He did play against OKC last season without Wemby. And in that game, he had 7 rebounds from 12 rebound chances in 26 minutes. And also keeping in mind, the San Antonio Spurs lost that game by 38 points. So it was a blowout and a half. Chances are OKC weren't missing too many shots. The spread in this game is only 9. And if the Spurs can keep it close to that, it means there's going to be a lot of opportunities available for Zach Collins. So I don't mind that. I wonder how much points he scored in that game. Ooh, he scored 20. Okay. 2 from 5 from deep, 8 from 17 overall. Zach Collins, points and rebounds. We could be onto something here. These are his games without Wemby last season. 22.2 as an average. 5 out of the 10 games he did manage to cover. I wonder if the points do have a much better hit rate, though. I've got to be honest with you. So I think we might just run with the Zach Collins points here. 12.5. Give me that. 20 points against OKC. I love it. I absolutely love it. 7 rebounds. Yeah, it's not too bad, but the points prop's probably the way to go for Zach Collins. Only 1 game sample size without Wemby this season, but it was a good one. Another 20-point outing, got to the free throw line, and he missed every single 3-pointer. Hopefully he can make one of those things, but I think Zach Collins is a good look. I honestly do. Let me take note of that. I'll investigate that a bit further, but Zach Collins to score some points. All right, another interesting pivot. I like his first quarter points could be a good look too. Scored 6 points in the first quarter against Dallas and only in 8 minutes. Took 4 shots and he got to the free throw line. So we're looking at 5 attempts there at least. If we look at last season in the first quarter without Wemby, he was over in 6 out of 10. 3.5 is a good number though. We're really just looking for 2 buckets here for Zach Collins. So that could be an interesting pivot, but I do like his overall points prop a little bit better. All right. Now, someone I'm interested to look at is Chris Paul. Nightmare matchup against OKC. Very good defending above the break. So the matchup is difficult as hell. Best team in the league at defending the pick and roll. They limit above the break baskets really well. Chris Paul scoring 58% of his points that way, and he's scoring 42% of his points in the pick and roll. So OKC going to make his life hell. His line's at 9.5. Did score 14 points against them earlier this season. He was 5 from 9. But Wemby did play in that game, who does attract a lot of attention. Now, Chris Paul, I'm not overly keen on betting the under 9.5. He's hit the over in 9 out of 14 games, but I'm just calling it right now. That matchup is difficult as hell. Stephon Castle could be an interesting look. Last time he played, it took his points plus assists. It was at 14.5. Now he's up against OKC, which is a much more difficult matchup than the Dallas one. I'm not keen on taking that, so I'm going to pass. Next, we've got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. His point line's at 29.5. No Chet in this game. Has been scoring a little bit more without Chet, but not absolutely eclipsing this number. Against the Spurs, his matchup's not too difficult. I think he has a strong game, but is the game going to be strong enough to cover? Last time he played the Spurs, only scored 18 points. They won that game by 12. Chet did a lot of damage. SGA still shot the ball 20 times, though. The matchup for SGA is not too bad. So I'd probably lean to the over there for SGA, but I've said this many times before. Taking points props at about 29.5, that's a little bit too high for me. I'm not overly excited for that. We got Jalen Williams, 22.5. He scores in transition and gets around the basket. The matchup's not too difficult against the Spurs. Last time out against the Spurs, he only scored 12 points, 5 for 13, a lot of team ball. So if they do that again, it's going to be tough for these star players to get over. Someone I tend to think of is Lou Dort. He scored 20 points against the Spurs last time, 6 3-pointers made, 7 from 9 from the field, absolutely killed them. And that was despite having a difficult matchup. Spurs pretty good at defending spot-up shooters, but Lou Dort been an absolute beast as of late. His line's at 13.5. Makes a lot of his buckets from three-pointers. I wonder what his three-pointers made line is. It's at 2.5, and it's plus money to the over. So this could be an interesting look here for Lou Dort. I wonder what his numbers look like if we just go without Chet Holmgren. Now, without Chet, he's over this line in 3 out of 4 games. The game he went under, he was 2 from 7 against the Phoenix Suns. Outside of that, the volume has been nice. Up against the Spurs here, I think SGA is going to attract a lot of attention. His matchup's not too bad. I honestly think Lou Dort could get it done, make a couple threes. Another one I was considering for Lou Dort would probably be something around his rebounds. They are inconsistent. 5.5 is quite high. His line's not typically that high, so I might have to pass on that. I think Lou Dort three-pointers might be my next play, but we'll see. We'll see. I'll dive into it. But let's look at the last game. It's a Utah Jazz versus Los Angeles Lakers. Now, if the Lakers are playing, it's usually like, do we bet on LeBron assists? Do we bet on 80 points? They're the, I guess, most consistent plays that you can look at. I want to have a quick look at the lineups, though. And what do we have? Rui Hachimura is a game time decision. So is AD. Bronny James is a game time decision. Poor bloke. And for Utah, Walker Kessler is out, so John Collins gets the start again. So John Collins could be an interesting look here. We'll see. But I think this game does present a little bit of value when it comes to betting. Anthony Davis, his points line's at 29.5. First game against Utah this season. The matchup is a good one. Utah not very good defensively. AD scoring a lot of points around the basket. Utah not very good. The spread, 11 points. So the Lakers haven't been blowing teams out, though. So Anthony Davis should see a lot of game time, I would expect. And especially that it's a cup game, he should be out there for a long time. 29.5 is the line for AD. He's definitely recovered from his little eye injury that he did have. So scores a lot of his points in the pick and roll. This matchup's a pretty good one. In easy matchups against the pick and roll, let me take a look at that. When AD's had a prime matchup against the pick and roll, check this out. 35 points as an average. Let's go. So AD, it's a pretty easy look, this one. Even if we look at easy teams against the restricted area, yeah, he's been killing them. The only game under was a 20-point blowout win against the Toronto Raptors where he scored 22 points. But yeah, I think AD to go over his points props, probably a good play. 28.5 is the best one that I can get. Would I play it up to 29.5? Absolutely. He's only finished on 29 points on the dot once. That was against Phoenix. So the 28.5 that I can get it for, that's probably going to be a look. Anthony Davis over 28.5. Let's have a quick look at his boards. The line's at 13.5. This Jazz team, 13th in the league in terms of rebounds allowed, but no Walker Kessler, so that probably does make it a little bit easier for Anthony Davis. But also, if Walker Kessler's not there, that means John Collins is playing the 5, Filipowski, Laurie Markkinen. So they've got a lot of guys who can stretch the floor. It might be a difficult rebounding game for Anthony Davis. Could spell a LeBron rebounding game, perhaps, but let's take a look. LeBronzo. Point line's 24.5. He's only hit in 5 out of 13 games. His matchup is great against Utah. The King scoring a lot of points in transition, as he always does. Utah, the worst team in the league at defending transition buckets. So the matchup is a good one, but LeBron's had good matchups so far this season. If we look at the ones where he's had a good matchup against transition, he's only covered this line 2 out of 6. So I know he scores a lot of his points in the transition, but we're talking about 6.5 points per game here. When the line's 24.5, the transition part, Yeah, it's his dominant play type, but there are a lot of other ways that LeBron scores, which the Utah Jazz are pretty good at defending. So his points prop doesn't interest me. His assist line, honestly, I like it, but the odds for this are terrible. The best odds you can get are -130 for him to get 10 assists, which is just bonkers. I'm not playing that. Rebounds, like I said, I think this could be a good rebounding game for LeBron. If AD is going to be pulled out of position all the time, then LeBron can definitely get some rebounds here. His line's at 8.5. Could be a triple double game here for LeBron James. That's what I'm thinking could happen. It is a cup game after all. So in the last Emirates Cup game, the Lakers played the Spurs. LeBron had 16 rebounds in that game. He got him with 18 rebound chances. What else did he have? 12 assists. So he was diamond up. Only scored 15 points. So, yeah, I think LeBron, I'll probably run this as a value play. So, being open and honest with you guys, I might look at LeBron triple double here, play it for half a unit, but I'm going to do some parlay science to get the best odds possible for all the guys in VIP. But, yeah, I think LeBron has a pretty big game. I think his rebounds and assists could be a look. At 19.5, though, which is crazy high. You better be getting that for plus money. 18.5 in some places, but I'm not too interested in that. I think I might just play half a unit and LeBron to get a triple double, to be honest. Not a full unit on any of his props. I don't love him that much. But taking a look at John Collins. Now, this guy can be a bit of a wagon. His point line's at 16.5. His matchup's somewhat difficult, though. The Lakers pretty good at defending spot-up shooters this season. They're pretty ass, like defending the paint, pick and roll stuff. But John Collins scoring a lot of his points from the spot up. They're bad in transition. John Collins not running the way he used to. So his points prop probably not the best one to look at. Rebound wise, 8.5 is the line. The Lakers average when it comes to rebounding. So I'm not seeing a big edge there for John Collins. Now, I know the Lakers are bad at defense. So I'm just trying to find which one of these guys from Utah have the good matchup. Laurie Markkinen, he doesn't have the best matchup here against the Lakers. So he can go fuck himself. Apologies for swearing. Colin Sexton, 15.5 points. Now he's scoring in the pick and roll. The Lakers are top 5 in defending the pick and roll at the moment. Points allowed in the pick and roll. So it's where they suck is in transition and in isolation. Colin Sexton not doing enough of that. Keontae George, I know he's not doing much of that. He's scoring in the pick and roll as well. Filipowski, he's scoring as a spot-up shooter. So again, the matchup's not ideal there. I'd probably wait for someone like a Jordan Clarkson perhaps to become available. His matchup's probably going to be nice, but probably not going to find any bets here for the Utah Jazz unless I'm brave enough to take an under. Actually, I know a bet that I can take. Because LeBron James is probably going to be hunting a triple-double in this game, I have a feeling that he probably turns the ball over a lot. Now, this is a pivot I've been thinking about for quite some time. LeBron James to get some turnovers. So let's take a look. Here we go. Here's LeBron's turnovers. So look at his turnovers in the last 3 games. 6, 7, and 6, which is pretty crazy. Now, this game should be pretty fast-paced. The Jazz playing at a top 10 pace at the moment. LeBron had 7 turnovers against the Spurs when he was diamond up. So if he's chasing triple-doubles, chances are that a lot of these turnovers will come. So over 3.5 turnovers for LeBron James. Can I get it? Amen. But at the same time, I know that this Utah Jazz team does not force many turnovers at all. So, yeah, they're one of the worst teams at the league at forcing turnovers. So that's probably a hesitation. And it's probably me being a hater. So LeBron, maybe that triple-double. That's probably where I land. But let's see if we can find some value in the first quarter props, actually. AD's first quarter prop is 8.5. He's covered this extremely well. 8 out of 12 games this season. Let me zoom in for you. 8 out of 12 games this season, averaging 10 points in the first quarter. So AD to have a big first quarter could be a good look. We spoke about his matchup being pretty decent. He does take quite a few shots in the first quarter as well. Someone who's also good in the first quarter is Austin Reeves. I know that for sure. Should take a look. 9 out of 13 games, he's hit the over. Last couple of games, he's gone under. The volume hasn't necessarily been there. So that's probably a hesitation. Let's take a look at John Collins. So since he's been promoted into the starting lineup, John Collins been getting it done. So let's look at the games without Walker Kessler. Check this out for John Collins. 4 games without Walker Kessler in the lineup. John Collins covered this first quarter points prop in every single one of them, averaging 7.8 points per game. Now his volume is pretty decent. 7, 7, 7, Then this last game against the Clippers, only took 2, but he did shoot 3 free throws. So that's another 2 shots. So he only took 4 real attempts at the basket there, which is a bit of a concern. But John Collins can hit the three-pointer as well. I think if John Collins' first quarter points prop, probably not too bad. I'll take a look at that. Now, the matchup's probably not ideal, but we'll see. The hit rate on that is pretty good. I do like it. So now that you got me thinking about first quarter points props, let's look specifically for those to see if there's any value in the first quarter points prop. So I think Jaylen Brown at 4.5 seems really low. And yeah, look, he's been hitting it 4 consecutive games now. 7 out of 10 games on the season, averaging 6.3 points per game in the first quarter. Does get to the free throw line. Yeah, a lot of it is free throws, actually. So, yeah, Jaylen Brown in the first quarter could be a look. But the problem is Jason Tatum in the first quarter. His line's at 8.5. He takes a ton of shots early in the game this season, especially without Kristaps. So that's my only concern there, betting on Jaylen Brown. Anthony Davis, we've already spoken about his hit rate. I know LaMelo Ball typically scores well in the first quarter, especially lately. 4 out of his last 5 games, he's gone over this points prop. 5.5 is not such a bad number. But again, that matchup against Brooklyn, somewhat difficult, you could say. So it leaves me to be a little bit hesitant there. And I know LeBron James, he's been pretty slow scoring in the first quarter. When he does score a lot of his points, it's late. So he's only gone over his first quarter points prop of 4.5 in 4 out of 13 games this season. Does have a decent matchup against Utah, though. So if LeBron chooses to score, he's going to go over. But will he? That is the question. We've seen Anthony Davis, Austin Reeves. They take a lot more shots than LeBron does in the first quarter. So that would be my hesitation. But I think the under for LeBron could be a good look here. You can get under 5.5. Doesn't change the hit rate on it at all. Reduces your odds. So, but given the amount of potential injuries and lineup changes we're expected to see for this set of games, there's not too many first quarter props available right now. So if you sign up to my Winnable, if I do bet on them, you'll be able to see all of it. Geez, I just realized the longer I did this video, the deeper I got into my seat. So let me sit up for a second, y'all. And let's recap what I have been able to find for those of you who have stuck around. Al Horford points. For some reason, that looked great to me. I'll go back and check that. Evan Mobley under his first quarter points prop. Amazing hit rate on the road. Zach Collins points. That does interest me. Lou Dort 3-pointers. Anthony Davis total points. LeBron, I think that triple-double could be on the cards for half a unit. And I've written down John Collins, first quarter points. That could be an interesting look too. So I don't know which ones I'm going to bet on. Just letting you know right now. But if you sign up to my Winnable, once I do put my straight bets down, I'll be sharing that to the free section of the Winnable. My VIP will get all the parlays, value plays, all that type of risky stuff. So be sure to check that out in the video description below. But we're almost at that time. It's almost at the hour mark. I appreciate it if you made it this far into the video. Hit up some of those links in the video description. All of those go a long way to help me out. Best of luck on this game. Sorry, on all of these games, not just one of them. But best of luck. I hope we cash out today, lads. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.